Hello YouTubers, my name is Attila Mate from Blue Sky Photography, and today I would like to talk to you about one of the lenses in the Sony E-mount lineup which is really good in my opinion, and it is kind of good pricing. It's not really affordable. It's kind of a little bit overpriced in my opinion, but not too much. It's okay. And that lens would be the 55mm f1.8 Sony Zeiss lens. Now, this lens was pretty at the beginning when Sony started with the E-mount, with the A6000 and the A7R and the A7 and the A7S. They released 3 lenses or 4 lenses, and this was between the first 4 lenses. And I have to tell you that I was one of those photographers who at the beginning, when the A6000 and all these cameras came on the market, I purchased the A6000, the A7R, and after that the A7 Mark II. Now, I purchased a few lenses, not too many, because obviously those days, there were not too many lenses on the market. But I purchased one of the full frame lenses. It was the 55mm f1.8 Zeiss. Now I purchased with the plan that I will use that lens for portraits mostly on the A7R, and if I put on my A6000 the 55mm, it will be kind of like 80mm, and kind of like 2.8-ish aperture, depth of field wise I'm talking about. So I have to tell you that I was amazed about the build quality of that lens. Now, like I said, that lens is a little bit kind of overpriced for a 55mm lens and the 1.8 lens, because the price is, even now, it's about $800 or €800, kind of like that new price. Now you can get, obviously, on eBay, you can get some second-hand versions, and then this second-hand version would be like 500, 600, depends how do you get. But mostly if you buy new, you will have to pay about €800 or dollar for this lens. Now that is, for a 55mm lens, in my opinion, a little bit overpriced. Would be a fair price around 600, kind of like that. But anyway, the lens worth its money, I tell you. Now, I owned this lens all the way through while I was using Sony, and I did a lot of shots with this lens, and in my portfolio there are a lot of shots made with this lens, portraits and even in wedding and these kind of things. Now, I tell you, this is a Sony and Zeiss combination, Sony Zeiss lens. Not a pure Zeiss lens, but in the same time, the image quality of the lens, it will be kind of close to the Zeiss lenses, the original Zeiss lenses. Now, again, if you use this 55mm on an APS-C size sensor, in my opinion, it's not worth, because you have the 50mm f1.8 OSS, which is optically stabilized, by the way, and that lens is €250. And if you compare these two lenses, the 55 and the 50mm, which is made, by the way, I forgot to tell that 50mm 1.8 OSS is made especially for APS-C size sensors. And that lens, optically, it is almost the same like the Zeiss. When you put on the APS-C size camera, you won't see any difference. When you put the 55 on a full frame camera and then you compare it, you will see a huge difference. But when you put both lenses on the APS-C, it's not worth. So if you have only an APS-C size like A6000, A6300, A6500, it's not worth, in my opinion, to buy this 55mm lens, because with the other one you can get away cheaper and you get kind of the same image quality. If you are really picky and if you want the best, obviously it's your money, you can buy this lens, no problem at all. It will be great image quality wise. Now, I used to have one little issue, with that lens, and that little issue, it was that sometimes it happened, not really often, sometimes it happened that it missed the focus. It focused a little bit back way or a little bit front way. Now, don't forget that the A7R on those days, the eye recognition was pretty at the beginning, and it wasn't that good. So that might be the case, because sometimes I was focusing on the eye, hitting the button and focusing on the eye, and actually the lens focused kind of like here, not exactly in the eye. And it happened a few times, not all the time. Most of the time the shots were okay and precise, but sometimes it happened that it focused not on the eye exactly, it focused in the back. Now, was that the lens fault or was that the camera's fault? I don't know that. I can't tell you that because I don't know that. But only with this lens I saw this issue. Now, I will show you in my computer a few photos made with this lens, and I tell you something, I was blown away by the image quality. So if you are a Sony shooter and if you want a kind of affordable 55mm lens, I think that this is a good one. Now don't forget that Sony has now the new 50mm f1.8 FE lens, which is also a full frame lens, and that is also about $300 or something like. I don't know exactly the price, but I will put up here on the screen so you can see. But that lens is good image quality wise again. Now I never tested the image quality between this new 50mm and the 55 Zeiss because I used to have only the version made for APS-C. I didn't have this new lens because this just a few months ago, half year ago or something, came on the market. So I didn't have that lens. But I think, in my opinion, that optically the 55mm Zeiss will be higher than the 50mm 1.8. But in the same time, if you look in the DXO Mark website, which many photographers will say that, oh, that's not really good and not accurate and whatever. I like sometimes to check there because they do very scientific tests in labs. And I think that if you want to see the sharpness of the lens, if you want to see the color rendition, these kind of things, it's good to have a look on their website. So DXO says that this 55mm lens is one of the best, and you can see that it ranks up really, really high. It's between the first 7-8 lenses in the whole world, all kind of make. If you put all makes in there and you just hit the best lens, you will see that it's between the first 7-8 lenses. It's really, really good lens, I tell you. Now, I will get into my computer and I will show you a few shots, which one I made with this lens. And I think that this lens worth the price, even if it's a little bit overpriced, I would pay this price. If you have a Sony a full frame mirrorless camera, I think that this lens is for you. Now let's get into my computer and let's see some shots. So we are in my computer now, and let's see some shots made with the Zeiss 55mm. Now if we get into my portfolio, I will select this, my portrait work, and I know roughly, I remember which photo was made with the Zeiss lens. Now this photo was made surely with the Zeiss lens, and if you look at the EXIF data over here, you can see on this side that this was focal length 55mm and FE55 1.8 Zeiss. Now it was made, by the way, this photo was made with the A6000. You can see over here on this side the A6000, the camera, and so it's kind of like 82mm. You can see focal length equivalent 35mm. It's 82mm. Now instead of the 1.8, you obviously this depth of field wise it will be like 2.8ish, kind of like that, So this is the first photo which I am really proud of. I really like this photo, and I think that this is an excellent example where you can see in the back, all this contrast, and also look at this contrast, over here. This is when we speak about Zeiss. This is what you can see. Now let's get a little bit further. And let's get another shot, which is kind of the same, it's the same boy, You can see over here the thin depth of field, it is but actually this boy was pretty far away from me. But you can see still that how shallow is the depth of field. This was top down at f2.2, you can see over here. It's the same lens 55 1.8 Zeiss. And this was again made with the A6000. Now, if we get further down, I will show you the example. This one was made again with the Zeiss. Yes, 55mm f1.8 Zeiss, but this was made with the A7R. Now look at these colors. I mean, okay, this was obviously, this shot is edited. But if you look at the contrast, in it, and it's unbelievable. Look at the details, it's just unbelievable. I really love this lens, I tell you. It is a very, very good lens. Now, this shot was done again with the 55. If you look at that, it's unbelievable, the quality. And look at the bokeh in the background, And the aperture, this was stopped down to f2.5. And it was made with the A7R. You can see the depth of field over here. The foot is out of focus already. And everything else is in focus, They are in focus, just their feet is out of focus. You can see on the grass over here the depth of field, how it's falling off. It's really, really good. Now again, if we check this one, this was again with the 55 Zeiss, the same. Look at the bokeh, you know, it's really good. Now if you look at the bokeh balls in the back over here, they are not 100% circular, you know, but that's not a big issue. For me, it's not a big issue at all. In the same time, the contrast of this lens, you know, and the color rendition and all this is unbelievably good. This was again with the A7R. Like I told you, these photos are edited, so it's not like out of the camera, obviously. But in the same time, you can see the contrast in it, you know, even if you don't compare the colors, you know. The colors are obviously, the saturation is up, you know, over here. Again, this is the A7R and the 55 Zeiss, and look at that, you know, it's really, really good. I really like it. Now, I hope that these examples, you know, were good enough for you to to prove, you know, that this lens is absolutely amazing image quality wise. Now, I don't even have to mention that the build quality of this lens is unbelievably good. I mean, it is, in my opinion, the Zeiss badge, you know, which is on the lens, you know, it's not without a reason. You know, you can see on the lens, when you hold it in your hand, you can feel it, you know, the premium build quality. Now, I hope that this video was helpful to you guys. I hope that you liked it. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share my videos. If you think that I forgot something, feel free and leave a comment down below. If you want to add something constructive to this video, feel free and leave a comment down below. I would like to hear your opinion about this lens. What do you think about this lens? In my opinion, this is an excellent lens, which is a little bit overpriced, but in the same time, it worth the money. If you look at these photos, and even if you try this lens, you will be amazed about the image quality. So if you want to add something, or if you know a better option, you know, for Sony E-mount, and you think that it's better than this lens, feel free and leave a comment down below, because I don't know everything. I'm just a human being, so I can make mistakes as well. If you would like to support this channel, please give me a thumbs up and share my videos. And other than that, I wish you a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.